911, where's your emergency?
Hello.
Hello. Is everything okay?
My mommy and daddy, I think they're dead.
What do you mean, sweetheart?
The call came from a 5-year-old girl named Tia Hernlen. Kids prank call 911 sometimes, but this wasn't a joke. This was a real tragedy. Julie Morgan and Aeneas Hernlen met in Daytona Beach. Aeneas was a lifeguard back then, and it was love at first sight. They were both adventurous, full of life, and crazy about surfing. Whenever they had the chance, they'd be out on the water, riding the waves together. Looking for new experiences, they moved to the Virgin Islands, where Aeneas's family lived. They got married there before eventually moving back to Florida, settling near New Smyrna Beach. They worked hard and bought their dream home, a bright yellow house with lime green trim and a pink door. In 2000, they had a baby girl, Tia Hernlen. She was their everything. They took her everywhere, even to the movies, always picking films that were kid-friendly just so she could tag along. Their little family was happy, filled with love and laughter. By 2005, Tia was 5 years old. Aeneas, 29, had just landed a promising new job. Julie, 31, was about to graduate from Daytona Beach Community College in May, finishing at the top of her class. She was studying to become a paralegal because she wanted to help people who needed legal support. She'd spend hours in the library, often bringing Tia with her, and her professors admired her dedication. Her friend always said that Julie was full of energy and always willing to lend a hand. But in March 2005, their bright future wasn't just stolen, it was shattered. It was the early hours of March 28, 2005. Around 3 a.m., Tia was fast asleep in her room when gunshots jolted her awake. Terrified, she ran to her parents' bedroom, calling out to them, "Daddy and Mommy?" No one answered. She pushed the door open, shaking. Blood. Bullets. Her dad had fallen from the bed, gasping for air, blood bubbling from his mouth. Her mom lay on the bed, motionless, covered in red. Most kids would have broken down in hysterics, but not Tia. She did exactly what her mom had taught her. She picked up their black and silver phone and dialed 3 numbers. 911.
911, where's your emergency?
Hello.
Hello. Is everything okay?
My mommy and daddy,
Uh-huh.
I think there's a bullet on the floor.
There's a what?
And there's blood coming out of my dad's mouth, and he fell off the bed.
He did. Where's Mommy at?
I don't know. I think they're dead.
What do you mean, sweetheart?
I don't know.
Okay, your daddy's on the floor. How old are you?
I'm 5 years old, and I have a dog in the house.
Okay, baby, okay. Let me get somebody right over to you. Did you go in your mommy and daddy's room?
And there's blood.
All over the place?
Not all over. There's blood on the bed and blood on the floor.
Oh, my goodness. And you have your little doggie with you?
And 3 cats.
And you got some cats, too?
3 cats and 1 dog.
Okay. Are you the only one there besides Mommy and Daddy?
I said Mommy and Daddy, and they didn't even answer.
Okay. What made you wake up tonight?
I think I heard a gunshot.
You heard a gun?
Yes, and I see a bullet laying on the floor. I think it's a bullet.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Who has a gun in the house?
I don't see a gun, but I'm scared.
Oh, sweetheart, I will not let anything happen to you.
Can you send the deputies out?
I promise I will. And you're only 5 years old?
Mm-hmm.
You are so smart for 5 years old. Wow. Are you off of school this week?
No, I go to school next year.
You do? Oh my gosh, you're not even in kindergarten yet?
No.
Oh, what's your doggie's name?
Liza.
Liza. What kind of doggie is she?
She's a lab.
Oh my God, I love those. Those are so beautiful. Is she a black lab or is she a yellow lab?
A black lab.
Oh my, you are so smart.
With, brown eyes.
Oh my goodness, how old is she?
She is like 3 years old or 2 years old. I don't really know.
Wow. Was there anybody else in the house besides you and Mommy and Daddy tonight? Like an uncle or anything?
No, there's no robber in the house.
Okay, well, I didn't think there'd be a robber, sweetheart. Did you have anybody staying over the night with you guys tonight?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So, and the doors are all locked and everything like that. Where are you in the house?
Well, I was in my room sleeping until I heard a noise shot and it woke me up.
Oh my goodness. What part of the house are you in at now?
I'm in the one, it's yellow, a whole yellow house, a green with it, a little bit of green, and a pink door.
Oh my goodness, that sounds really cool. Did you pick out the pink door?
No, my mom picked out the colors.
Look, I bet you that's beautiful. Does Mommy and Daddy have a car in the driveway?
2 cars.
2 cars? What kind of cars do they have?
My mom has a Toyota.
What color is that Toyota? Is it dark or gray or silver?
It's red.
Red? Okay. What kind of car does Daddy have?
He has a Jeep. It's black and white.
Listen to me. Is your phone the kind of phone you can take with you and walk around? There should be an officer at your front door. I need for you to take your phone with you and walk over to the door and open it for me, okay? And I'm gonna stay on the phone with you, okay?
But
I will not hang up.
I'm naked.
Oh well, you want to go grab a towel or something? I don't think the officer's gonna care, baby. We just want to make sure Mommy and Daddy are okay, all right? Grab a blanket or something. Stay on the phone with me. Stay on the phone, all right?
Okay.
My name's Donna, by the way. You are doing a wonderful job. Wonderful job.
And I knew what to do for Safer Dog.
You did great.
I knew.
You are wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. You should be very proud of yourself.
I'm to the door. I'm unlocking it.
Okay. You let me know when the officer talks to you. Okay, you go ahead. Okay, you talk to the officer.
Talking to the dispatcher? Okay, tell her I'm here now, okay? You can hang up.
Bye, sweetheart.
He's here.
Okay, sweetheart. You be good, okay?
Come on over here.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
By the time police arrived, Julie was already gone. Aeneas still had a faint pulse, but despite hours of desperate medical efforts, he didn't make it. Just like that, Tia, only 5 years old, lost both her parents in one night. When officers put her in the back of a squad car, she just sat there. She didn't cry, didn't move, just sat completely still for an hour. It was no accident, and definitely not a murder-suicide. This was cold-blooded murder. And the police quickly zeroed in on a suspect, 33-year-old David Edward Johnson. Turns out Julie had tried to get a restraining order against him just 2 months earlier, only to have it rejected by the judge saying,
"There was no violence alleged, and it was hard to prove stalking with the allegations."
David had been harassing the Hernlen family for months. Why? Because he was convinced that they were the ones who reported him to the police in November 2004 for growing weed and possessing steroids. But the truth? They had nothing to do with it. Julie knew he was dangerous. She told her friends he was ruining her life. She kept a record of every time he drove by their house, every threatening call he made. She wrote down the dates, the exact words he said, then she filed for that restraining order. After it was rejected, she told a friend,
"If I'm not here next week, he did it."
The last time she spoke to the police, she asked them straight up,
"Do I have to wait for him to kill me before you'll do something?"
By the time police went to arrest David, it was too late. After killing Julie and Aeneas, he went home and shot himself. Officers found newspaper clippings about his drug arrest pinned to his fridge right next to court papers for his upcoming trial. As for Tia, she was taken in by her grandparents in Central Florida. Strangers who heard about her story set up a trust fund to make sure she'd have financial support for her future. Many blamed the police and the courts for failing to protect the victims. People were horrified, heartbroken, furious. The judge who denied the restraining order later admitted,
"If I had more information, I think I would have granted it. Looking back, I wish I had done things differently."
But by then, it didn't matter. It was too late.